Welcome back, everybody. Inside the Music. I'm here with Fin Wall.
How's it going?
Fin Wall of
The Commune. That's us. Yeah,
I love it. That's us, but there's just one of you today.
there is in the ever revolving door. It's just me today.
I love it. Finn, singer songwriter here in Hamilton, doing great work, kind of on his own, and also just like the band, the Commune. I got introduced to these guys sometime in 2025. And yeah, just immediately love the vibe, love the energy. And before we hop into things, I just want to say thanks so much for taking the time to chat, sit down with me, hang out.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate it. It's yeah, I've been wanting to do this for a long time. I stopped you at a show and was like, I want to do your show. I don't think we'd met at that point, but it was yeah, a little bit of a surprise attack coming in.
Yeah, well, it's one of those nice things when you go to shows and you just you don't know who you're gonna meet. Right. You could meet nobody, or you could meet someone could become your best friend or a bandmate.
Yeah.
Or in this case, we're sitting here doing a radio show
At Catherine North.
At Catherine North. Shout out Catherine North. And I asked you before, every time I do this and people walk in, they kind of give the look, and you gave that look. I'm like, I don't think has he been here before, but you corrected me on that. You've been here before.
Yeah, we did JUMA, the first EP, which came out in would have been 2023. We did here with Ollie Presta, who we also painted together for ages. We painted houses together and cut records together. He's a Hamilton guy. We cut that here in its entirety, and then on our last record, The Fall, we cut it out in Wisconsin under the last administration. We were out in Wisconsin, and
duly noted.
Yeah, with Jeremiah Lund, fantastic producer, young guy. But we were missing something. There was like the record was just about finished, but there was, you could tell there was a piece of the puzzle that just wasn't there yet. So Charlie and I plays piano in the Commune. We came in here and. Again with Ollie, who cut the first record, we mic'd up that piano and pulled it out in the middle of the room, and we just played one song and did it in 2 takes. Came in before they opened up. They were good to us, and yeah, it was the last piece of the record before we put it out. So this place, it's kind of a home away from home in a lot of ways, and it's got a lot of memories.
Yeah, and you were saying that you kind of you're Hamilton. You kind of like live really close to here, but you've kind of been everywhere by the sounds of it.
A little bit. Yeah, like my folks live 2 doors away. They have for years. I skin my knees on the street out here like forever. But but yeah, I was in Toronto for a bit, and I was in England as a young kid. And on the East Coast for a long time, but it was always here that was home. My grandparents are up on Upper Sherman, uncles are on Concession. My uncle used to own the Lion's Head on John there. So every Christmas, every summer, Hamilton was the only place that was really home. When it was London, when it was the East Coast and stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, I love that. And it's funny. One of the things I love about Hamilton, this isn't like a tourism Hamilton thing, but like, yeah, you can. It's a community where like you're a stone's throw away from the next person, and the 1 degree of separation is so. It's so easy to connect with folks, and I think it's beautiful to hear that you're at the studio, you have memories in the studio, and here we are doing this. So again, thanks so much for taking the time, man. Yeah,
I appreciate it. It's there's something magical here. And I just wrote this play about it, or kind of centered around it, because there's something specific to Hamilton. And I will say, like, I've been here full time since I was a teenager, and it's shaped all the music I've made. But there's something special to here in the way that we support one another and build one another up that I haven't seen anywhere else. That, when I talk to friends of mine in Nashville, or friends who are based out in New York, or I've got good pals in just outside Detroit. There's great folk scene in Ann Arbor. There isn't that same degree of building one another up. This place actually was owned by Dan Aiken from Junkhouse for a long time, and those guys are present in my mind. We just finished a big run of shows with them, but I remember coming in here I was 18, 19 when we made the JUMA record. And coming in and downstairs, there's all those gold records on the walls and pictures of those guys, right? And now, I mean, it's beautiful that those guys are mentors and teachers and friends.
Mm-hmm.
But I remember coming in here on that first record and seeing pictures of Russ and Dan, both who are gone now, and Ray and Tom, and going, but they're from here and they made it out, you know. That Strays record, it changed my life, but those guys never were like, oh, you know, we're up here and you're starting out, right? They would bring us out to open for them when we were starting out, and they would, like even on festival bills, Tom would call me the morning of and be like, we're gonna do a Velvet Underground song, come play, you know? And that to me is Hamilton in a lot of ways, you know, that way where we look out for one another, but then there's the extra mile.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
And I love too, like hearing what you talk about, like the Junkhouse crew and all that, and like you know, the older people who aren't gatekeeping. And I think of like people like Ben Rispin. I think of like those guys who like they just want to pass on tradition and pass on knowledge to the younger people. And I see that. And like I met you at the Road to Supercrawl, which was like an event that you and your band, The Commune, kind of played at.
We lost.
No, you won. You won, and we'll get to that in a second. You won, and I'll get to that in a second. They didn't technically win, but what I love about that is I really felt there was a merging of a lot of different people. There was like different artists and different genres, all in one space, different ages. And it was like a really beautiful thing where it didn't feel like one stuck out over the other in a negative or positive way. It just felt like this is kind of the community. And it's like, I really loved it. I thought it was cool. And the reason I say you won is because like without that, I would not have gotten to know you guys. And even if you don't win a thing, like you win fans, you win connections, you win friends, you win all that. So in my eyes, like, you know, I'm so grateful that you performed, even though you didn't win. Because I got a chance to meet you guys. It's like really awesome.
That's sweet, man. Yeah. And like Aoife, who also did that, he's from the same like tiny county in Ireland as my dad's like whole family is from.
Actually
20 minutes up the road, which we figured out that night. She's fantastic.
So for those that don't know, Aoife won that round of the Road to Supercrawl, and she ended up winning the whole thing. So that was like your heat or whatever. And so she's from Ireland, hence the name Aoife, obviously. So yeah, you guys are from like the same like what are the chances of that? I have no idea.
Like Hamilton and Ancaster kind of thing.
Yeah.
That was a lovely experience, and I think you said it. It is like such a win, and I like kidding around, you know, that we shut the bed on it, but no, it was like it was so special, and Dylan Gray came out. She played another night, but Elijah Holmgren, who plays in Commune, plays in her band, and she's someone else where she's got a couple years on us, but I think Elijah's been playing with her since he was 15, 16, and she always, when we were coming up, would like come open for us, come play for us, you know. And now we've been doing it a little while, and maybe it's more equal footing, but that reciprocity is there now, where we're able to say, you know, well, why don't we do a show together? Yeah, and it's lovely. And that night, those nights were a great reminder of that.
I want to do a bit of a roll call here. So the Commune, I see you guys, and I don't know, like I knew most of the bands that were on them. I'm like, I've never heard of these guys. And then you go on stage, and I'm like, you all came from like another planet. Like, so I want to like, here's my perspective. I see your bass player who's just like in his own world, in like the best, like he belongs on stage. And your guitar player looks like he just came straight out of like Stranger Things.
Yeah,
you know
absolutely.
I mean? So walk me through a bit of a roll call here. Who's in the Commune?
Yeah, that's actually a great question, because it's always kind of changing, and new people are coming in and people are walking away, and that's how it started, right? Was that Ollie and I set out to make a solo record, and I wanted the only rule for playing on that record was no assholes, right? Who were guys that we knew who would play for, like beer and pizza, and we'll play on this record. And from that, Charlie Alto, we live together. He's one of my closest friends. I love him like a brother. He's on keys, and he has always been just a sensational piano player. Like since he's a child, he's a proper virtuoso. Elijah Holmgren on guitar. Elijah's a Toronto guy. Last weekend, Daniel Lanois blew up Elijah's amp at the Horseshoe, which is a story for after this roll call. But Elijah,
I need to flag that one so I remember to go back to it.
Yeah, man. Elijah and I used to haul drywall together in Burlington, and I honestly think that shaped the sound of the band. Right? If you're
In what
doing
way?
8 hours a day hauling drywall into suburbs, you're gonna. It's a little bit sweeter when you get paid to play guitar as opposed to doing that in the middle of June.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah. Elijah, he's something special. The first time I saw Elijah play,
Is your guitar player?
yeah, lead guitar player. Elijah was, I'm gonna say 15. He might have been maybe 16, right? No older. And I kept hearing about him, right? And he was playing in this kind of Zeppelin cover band thing, which he also wrote for, but they're predominantly covers. And he's a kid, right? And it's tail end of the pandemic. And I keep hearing about this guy. So I go out and I hear that they're playing a show at Wallace Emerson Park in Toronto. And so Charlie and I go out to this thing. And we're like a park show, what's going on? Venues aren't open yet. We don't know what's happening. And restrictions have been lifted. All the protocols have been lifted. And the sun's going down. We look in on the skate park. There's these instruments. And Elijah and this band he's playing come up right as the sun's going down. And I swear to God, 600 kids show up to see them play 70s rock and roll on the tail end of the pandemic.
I love that.
Yeah. And even then, he was a rock star. Yeah. He's 15 years old. He's still got the same haircut, the same bell bottoms.
Yeah.
Still looks like Peter Frampton, right?
Yeah,
But
for real. Yeah.
he comes out there and I said to Charlie and I weren't playing in a band then. And I said, Charlie, that's our guitar player. Yeah, we didn't have a band back then. But Elijah, then we Bobby Bissett. Bobby actually, on bass. Yeah, Bobby, he's the first guy who was in this band, which is funny to think about because of the way we made the record. We were thinking of it as a solo record with guys on it, right? And Bobby didn't play on that first record, even though Charlie and Elijah did. But then when I started playing live, I made that record right after I quit drinking, and it was kind of a departure from what I'd been doing before. And I wanted to play with a band again. I grew up playing in bands. I want to play with a band again. So I was thinking a 3-piece. So it was Bobby and this guy, Chris, who was drumming. And Bobby, he just has this energy. If you're chatting with Bobby, you got to say, hey man, I'm going to talk now. Because he can keep going. Keep going. And it's beautiful because when you get him going about music, it is like, bring a notebook. Bring a notebook because you will learn so much.
We're talking like music history, music theory. Like, what does he really dig into?
Theory and production. Like he could take one look at that crazy console there and tell you everything about it, right? And that's another world to me, right? I like when we were heading out through the Midwest, and I sat with Bobby for a bit. And he was just telling me about the different synths on Stevie Wonder records. Unprompted. Unprompted. But Bobby, he's the guy where we'll get multi-track recordings back from a venue, and Bobby will mix a 2-hour set in a day or two and send it back to me. Like
Wild.
he's something special. Bobby was the first guy in the band before it was a band, And I love him for that. And we got Thomas Carley, who's
Drums.
on drums. Yeah, he's really something special. Marco Goldblatt, honorable mention. Marco drummed on both records. He's a couple years older than the rest of us, and after a bit, it was, you know, creeping up on 30 and want to travel and want to start a life with my partner and go to teachers college and do all that. And he anything Marco wants to do, he will succeed at. He's a beautiful human. But when he left and went to teachers college, there was a little bit of a revolving door of drummers for a couple months.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason that was, and this isn't to say that the guys who played with us weren't great in their own right, but it was because I was working up the nerve to ask Thomas Carley to drum for us. Right?
What about Thomas then?
Thomas, he is so exciting to watch. He's a force to watch. Actually, the last few months we've been pulling Thomas side stage so that the stage plot's moved because he's got to be in the front.
Seeing a lot of bands doing that these days.
Yeah,
especially if you have someone who's like doing more than just kind of holding the beat back. Right?
Yeah, and he's singing and he's like Animal from the Muppets, like, and he's flipping sticks and stuff, and he's a tornado to watch, But Thomas, he's a musician, and that's why Thomas plays with Danny Michel. That's why his project Meteor Heist just played at Danforth, opening for
they're doing
Stars,
great right now. Yeah,
and that's his baby. That band is a beautiful democracy of all those great minds coming together. But Thomas works so hard on that project as well, and Thomas and I feel like the thing I say the most about Thomas is that he's the guy I fight with the most in the band, and that's the highest compliment I can give him, because Thomas and we argue the most. We were on the phone for an hour and a half 2 nights ago, but it's because we're working towards the same goals.
And you care about it equally, or like both viscerally.
Yeah, we care about it to a point where we're yelling at each other about it, But Tommy, he studies composition and does like film scoring stuff and plays every instrument imaginable. He also produced our last single. He's a gifted guy. So that's the roll call. And then Dougie McBrien, Ben Neck and the Joints, and Michael Antelope, whose resume is insane. I mean, Dougie, he's a Hamilton boy. We play Hamilton geography every time we see each other, and it's like, oh yeah, so do you know my cousin who knows your sister? Jackie's also a great talent. Doug, he's on the road all the time with Walk Off the Earth. He just played that Neil Young tribute show at Massey Hall. He played Massey Hall twice that week.
That's amazing.
So Doug, when we can get him, is a really important part of the band. When we record, he's an important part of the sound. But there's also a recognition of you've got so much on the go and your own projects that hey man, when we can have you, we love you. If you love something, set it free kind of thing, right? That's the band.
It's interesting in having these conversations with so many different artists and bands. A trend I'm noticing lately is there's always at least one person in the band who does the production. It almost seems like that's a requirement these days.
Yeah, that's interesting. I mean, you can make a good record in your basement now, right? And we're of the generation that grew up with that, right? Where when we've cut records here, when we went out to Lund Records in Kinosha, I think there is something to be said about that, in that you almost feel, and you're inspired by the space and the people, but there's a degree of commitment where it's like, maybe, you've spent the money to be in the studio, or you're in the space to be in the studio.
You've hired a producer.
Yeah, and something...
It's their time,
and something comes from that, right?
It's true.
at the same time, right? If you want to pay your rent,
Yeah.
and music is the way you're paying your rent, you're probably not paying out of pocket all the time to get a record.
Good
But,
luck.
I appreciate it. But yeah, I think having someone like Thomas, Bobby also has a production background, and he's a sounding board for Thomas's ideas. It adds something, and it makes it accessible. Right? I think it is becoming the norm for a lot of people. But I do, all the time. It's like I wanna learn as much as I can when I make a record as well, right? That I can take into the next one. And the way that I've found to do that, because we've done 2 records with producers and a single with Thomas as a producer.
Yeah.
And there was so much I learned from Ollie Presta on the first record. Ollie would have been 22, 23 at that time. Like I said, I was 18. And then we made The Fall with Jeremiah Lund, who was our age, but he's from another world. He similar to this place, he just bought a church in Wisconsin.
Okay.
Because he was working out of the studio. And kind of, I don't know the details, the lease ran out or something, and they had to up and move. And when a lot of people would have said, all right, well, I'll work out of my basement the way the Lanois brothers did, and like I said, you can make a record out of your basement now.
Yeah.
Jeremiah's the guy who goes, well, a lot of people go to college, and I didn't want to go to college, so I may as well take that money. I'm going to buy a church.
Right.
Right. and builds a studio and does it. His follow through is incredible. Jeremy and I, we were in Wisconsin a few years ago. I was up there with my buddy Matty Ringo, dear friend of mine, great folk singer.
Can I ask? Sorry, how did you get connected to the whole Wisconsin?
Yeah. Okay.
Because that's a curiosity.
That's a fair question, man. That's a very fair question. Jeremiah toured with an artist named Baby Jake out of Nashville. Jake's a good buddy. He's the couch I sleep on when I'm down there.
Yeah.
Another guy whose work ethic and drive is just out of this world. Jeremiah toured with him. Elijah Holmgren during the pandemic worked really hard on social media. I can't stand social media, so I'm glad we have someone who's good at it. I can't do it on my fucking flip phone. So Elijah, but Elijah's great at it. Jake gets a hold of Elijah.
Yeah.
Right? Elijah isn't playing with the band yet, but he had laid a solo on the first record. So Jake says to Elijah, "Hey man, you're from Toronto. Do you want to come play a solo on one of my songs?" Right? Great marketing on Jake's part, right? Elijah, in a wonderful vote of confidence for what he thought this project could be, he says, "No, but I just played on this record. I just threw one solo down on this record. I think you might really like this band." Sends Baby Jake the JUMA record, right? Jake liked it enough that he got us to open that show at Adelaide Hall, at which point we had been playing for 3 weeks.
I'm sorry, Adelaide Hall, give me some perspective. What are we talking here?
Bigger than the Horseshoe, smaller than Bridgeworks.
Okay.
Yeah.
So 300 cap, 250, something like that.
It's four, five.
Actually, four. Yeah. Four. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. But like I said, like at
that's
that
pretty
point,
big for 3. Yeah. Sorry. I'm like trying to get the nuts and bolts of it, but
3 weeks. I was playing at the Lion's Head.
That's what I was gonna say. Yeah, 3 weeks. Okay, go on.
Yeah. So we'd never played on a stage before as a band, right?
I love that. That's so good.
We were coming into bars and setting up our amps on the floor.
Yep.
And Jake took a chance on us. And his drummer was this guy, Jeremiah Lund, who was around our age. He was 18, 19, right? But had done 2 North American tours at this point with Jake. He has that Thomas thing where you can have, a lead guitar player and a front man. You can have someone like Bobby who's dancing all around the stage playing bass, but your eyes are drawn to the drummer who's just this just this Tasmanian devil, like just going nuts, right? Jeremy and I get talking. As do Jake and I. Jake and I really hit it off because I think the thing Jake and I have in common, and we make different kinds of music, but we're both writers first, you know? And we get on great, hang out the next day with Max Thomas, wonderful guitar player, songwriter who plays with Willow Avalon in Nashville. So we start writing, but they got to be on the road. So Jake says, hey, my drummer has this studio in Kinosha. Why don't we'll meet up in 6 months in Kinosha and we'll finish these songs. I call my buddy Matty, who lives outside Detroit. We book a bunch of shows and I head down that way. And Jake calls me and is having some really serious health issues. So he apologizes, but he goes, I'm out of the picture for these sessions. But we have studio time, right? And we're in Kinosha.
This is like, go back to what you said, like committing to something. Like you paid for it. It's like it's becoming a thing. You're all geared up for it.
Yeah, man. And so I call Maddie, who I'm in the studio with tomorrow for her new record. Maddie gets in her car, like is still on the phone and gets in her car and comes to Wisconsin from Michigan. And I call Charlie, alto piano player, who goes, yeah, I can swing it financially, and hops on a plane. And we spent a week there with Jeremiah's band, Lund, where we just wanted to create. We didn't have a project in mind. We just wanted to create.
Right.
And we cut Pink Plastic Frame, the first record, or the first track off The Fall. And we cut Michigan Morning, also on The Fall. And we did a few other tunes that didn't make the record. And then we cut a single for Maddie called Kinosha that I think Charlie was gone at that point, but I played on. And then shot music videos for them, you know, ran around the Midwest with a camera and had a great time. But since then, you know, those guys are going to be coming into town in March. We're doing a run of shows with them. And it was just such a one, you know, I feel like vibe is just this word that's lost all meaning now, but it was.
Yeah. It
was just such a wonderful energy in that room with those guys, and to be far from home in this beautiful space and complete bohemians just making art for the sake of art with no deadlines or budget or anything, right? In Kinosha.
So
that's the Wisconsin connection.
That's great.
Yeah.
That's great. You mentioned that you're shooting content, you're making videos, you're making records, and I love the idea of like being able to kind of bootstrap it and do it on your own. Mm-hmm. And I'm just curious, like from your perspective, in a world where like content has to go out so quickly, like you're always feeling like you should be making content, like how do you manage that with like what you just mentioned, how like you're just a bunch of bohemians just like wanting to just make art at your will, right? How do you balance those energies?
Poorly. Yeah, I think content is something that I can say is a weakness of ours, right? And that it's not better or worse, it's just what it is, right? Yeah. And we're working on it, right? Something that was kind of a bizarre blessing. We just did 2 nights at the Horseshoe, and some friends came out. A lot of people are home for the holidays. I'm not quite sure why. Maybe it's like when vinyl came back, but a lot of folks were carrying these digital cameras.
You mean like the like 2000s digital cameras? Yeah, okay.
With, you know, the date in yellow in the corner kind of thing, right? Yeah. But there were 3 or 4 people there with these digital cameras. So before our set, I was like, hey, like we have a photographer for this show, but would you guys, you know, if you hear a song you like, film it. And that's been this content push, has been like, oh, there is a aesthetic quality to these little digital cameras, right? Where I think sometimes it is bootstrapping it, in that it's like, we're not having a content meeting of like how are we gonna have the latest trend and use the right hashtags and have POV or at a commune show or whatever.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
what we in terms of promotion, because in the same breath, I think it's popular to shit on TikTok. People of like hating on it, and fair enough. But I've also stapled posters in February for a show, and if it's between making a 15-second video that's gonna reach a couple thousand people and walking along concession in February with
a roll of tape and that you can't get the corner off and your fingers are freezing.
So that 4 more people show up at the Casbah for your show and you're 16. I'm probably gonna do the phone thing.
Yeah.
Right. Doesn't mean I'm great at it, but I think both can be balanced in that I'm really proud of the work we make. The records we make and our live show. I'm really proud of that. And I'm not embarrassed to say that I think it's good, that we work hard. And because of that, I want to share it with as many people as I can, right? If you don't, I don't know why you're doing this, right? But in that, like, that's kind of how I see it, is that, well, we have all this camera footage from our pals who were there, who have their own little experience, and they'll share it.
So I think it's really cool that you are, not worrying too much. I mean, obviously we all worry about it, but like not focusing too much on the content, because I feel like that's only 1% of what a band is and does.
Yeah.
So you could have amazing content and the music's not good, and it's like, well, it's a beautiful sign and there's nothing in the store.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
I love that. I love that. Yeah. Or it doesn't translate, or you have 200,000 followers, but you're selling 20 tickets to your show, right? Because there is no connection with Instagram reels. Like
it's the same as potato chips, like in and out, right?
Yeah,
it's like,
exactly. I think it can be used for something, right? When we play a show, if we're opening for someone, I'm gonna always try and be at our merch table after.
100%.
Yes, to make a little bit of money, but also that you connect with the people that you've just shown your heart to, right? And when they're nice to you, it's cool too. But but you can connect, right?
Yeah.
And you can use social media and whatever for that, right? I was talking to Matt Mays about that a few weeks ago. A phenomenal talent. That maybe someone, if someone throws a video up on their story, text them, hey, thank you for coming, I appreciate it. If you do appreciate the fact that they went out of their way to support what you're doing, and you recognize that you have an obligation to deliver, right? And if you see that reciprocity in that relationship for what it is, reach out and maybe you'll connect. But you're not going to connect with someone through one of the 2004-second videos they watched that day. If you can find a way to connect, I think put all your energy into that, and you'll reap the rewards.
Yeah. I feel that I agree wholeheartedly. And what I love about my show is I get to sit down and chat with someone for like an hour. It's like a beautiful thing, and it's like there's always this connection I find with all my guests. Like we know each other a little bit more just because we're here. But I think fundamentally, like what you said about going to shows and like being at the like the merch table and like chatting with people and that sense of gratitude. I think like, and I'm very strong on this with this show, is like go to shows and chat with people, because that connection, whether it's 5 minutes, means the world in a world where you're meeting thousands of people online, or like you have these para what do you call that, there's a word for it, parasocial relationships, right? So like go to shows, hang out. And I don't know how you feel, I'm gonna throw this one out there as a performer, like If you liked the show, go tell the performer they had a great show.
Yeah, man.
Or don't. I don't know. How do you feel about that?
I love it. I'm an artist. I'm arrogant as hell, and I need validation constantly. I love it.
You're doing a great job.
Cheers. Likewise. Yeah, it is funny. I don't know anyone who doesn't fixate on the one thing that didn't go.
Oh,
right,
man. These glasses aren't the same. They drive me crazy.
There you go. I didn't notice. But you'll fixate on that, and yeah, I mean, it's to your point of maybe you'll meet someone and maybe they'll be in your next band. Maybe you'll meet someone that's your best friend. Yeah, like Matt, who I was just talking about. I met him at the J.R. Diggs Christmas thing that's coming around this year.
Yeah.
I'm out of town. I'm missing it. I'm really bummed, but it goes to a good cause. And we chatted, and then probably close to a year later, I bumped into him in a completely different context. But I enjoyed what he did, and I had told him I enjoyed what he did. I met as a dear friend, because of that, right? Yeah, talk to people. I'm curious with your show and your line of work and what you do here. I'm thinking, when was the last time I sat with someone for an hour and talked about art and one of us didn't reach for our phones at some point? Yeah, because what a gift. What a gift that you have, and what a gift you give other people, right?
Yeah, you just like blew my mind, because I don't think in those terms. But like, I always tell people, this is my favorite hour of the week, where I can just like chat, and the fact that like phones aren't there and it's like intentional. Mm-hmm. Like maybe that's one of the reasons why I love doing this. Yeah, it's great.
Well, it's connection, right? It's connection. My mom talks about it with church. That she's not super practicing anymore, but even when she was a kid, church was an hour to sit, and you just sat and you thought for an hour and you listened to something.
Yeah.
And the noise stopped.
Yeah.
Right. And now it's, you go and you sit in church and you're not on Facebook.
Yeah.
Ideally.
Yeah.
But
yeah. No, I agree with that wholeheartedly. If anyone wants to get a hold of you, find your band, where can people find you and your music?
As of right now, anywhere. I have a lot of friends in the States, and seeing Spotify's ethics in relation to everything going on down there is pretty gross. So I'm not going to say we won't be on Spotify. I don't know. It's not completely my decision to make. As of December 18th, you can find us anywhere.
Yeah.
Ideally on Bandcamp, but yeah. Okay. If you want to reach out, The Commune Hamont at gmail.com, or shoot us a DM, shoot us a message.
Yeah. Say hey.
Say hey.
Yeah, your music, I've heard you guys live a couple times, and it's amazing listening to the music that you've recorded. So you recorded your first EP here, and then your second like your full album kind of in different places. And I'm so impressed with how close you sound live as you do on the recording. And I mean that in the sense of like the recording really does capture what you do. Yeah.
I appreciate that. We're still learning so much, and we're all kind of running with our eyes closed in a way that has been a lot of fun.
What do you mean by that?
I don't know what I'm doing, man. I think Bobby's the oldest guy in the band. Bobby's 24. Like, none of us have been doing it that long, right? Where another thing about working with a producer, there's almost a paternal figure in the room to guide you.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Where, when we cut the JUMA record, it started with Ollie Presta is my cousin's partner. So that's how I knew him, right? Mm. And I knew he made music. And I called my big cousin's boyfriend and hey man, like, I don't have a band anymore, and I'm trying to make all these life changes, and I'm writing all the time, and I'd love to record some solo demos. Right, what started as calls me up to his house in Ancaster. We sit in his basement. I play him some songs. Sticks a mic on the guitar, one on my voice, play some songs. Right? And then with one of the tunes, I said, "Hey, my friend Charlie, he's a great piano player. I think piano could be good on this." So we call him, but Ollie doesn't have a piano at his house. So we go, "Okay, maybe we have to do it a day in a studio. We can probably get some money together." Ollie was working here. He, got a friends and family rate. We cut that record for $800.
Full record.
A JUMA, yeah.
Yeah. How many songs are on JUMA?
5 songs.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Yeah. And a lot of that is based in the generosity of the people who worked in it, who were willing to work for pizza. Like I said before.
This album was brought to you by pizza.
Yeah. By Tony G's.
So I have a question about your songwriting itself. I'm curious to know, as someone, I find that the age that you're at is a fascinating time, and I reflect on my time, my early 20s, when like there's so much change from like 16 to 18 to 20 to 22, 24, like so much change.
Yeah.
And I'm curious to know how that change, or change in general, is like impacting your approach to songwriting.
Oh, that's a wonderful question. And I found that I can only ever write from where I am. Yeah. And if it's maybe a more narrative tune, like Frame, then that still applies, right? I look at the first record and I look at songs like All You Wanted, right? And I go, yeah, that was written by a drunk, insecure 16-year-old who was lost. And that song came from a conversation with my friend Serena Fiel, a wonderful artist who was as drunk and lost and insecure as I was, and we were just complaining about the world, right? That song came from it, right? Now Serena's a mother, and a fantastic mother, and a fantastic artist, and a grown up, and I haven't quite grown up yet, but I'm getting there. But I look at that song, right, as kind of the earliest. Maybe Lady Bird was before that in terms of writing, but as an early song, right? And then it was part of the record sequencing on JUMA. Because then I get sober, and Break is the first song I write sober. And that was the first time where something made me uncomfortable, where I'd written something that made me uncomfortable in, I don't know if vulnerability is the right word, but in that it was an uncomfortable reflection of where I was. And I'm a post Jason Isbell songwriter, right? So I recognize that if something makes me uncomfortable with where I am, lean into that, and that's where the good stuff is, right? I'm following that into, recognizing that it doesn't always have to be confessional songwriting, which is a term that's thrown around. I don't know if I like it. But that, there are songs on that record, Big Cars, which was about, the first time I was gigging in the States as a folk singer just on my own, and I couldn't drive. I didn't have a license or a car, so I booked these shows and through the Midwest with Matty Ringo. But I had to get down there, so I had these run of shows booked, and I was sleeping on, couches in Ann Arbor and Wisconsin and stuff, and doing this run of shows by Greyhound, right? Where there are those songs where I go, yeah, that when I think about that now, that's insane. That's, to go, yeah, I can do this.
You've lived like 1,000 lives.
One or two for sure. One or two for sure. But
I was gonna take it a totally different direction. Greyhounds in the States are kind of wild. I've been on them.
oh my God.
I've been on them.
Oh my God. I
Yeah.
remember going from Jackson, Michigan to Chicago with
Yeah.
one woman who was in like the thickest, most wonderful Detroit accent I've ever heard, breaking up with her partner on the phone, screaming at him, while another woman was doing whippets beside her child. And then I was there trying to write my songs.
You're there with your guitar. You're
Yeah,
like,
what else do you need for a song, man? Like, what else?
It's written for you. Just put it on paper.
Yeah. Like, I don't know what other inspiration you need.
Yeah, I was visiting my buddy in Pennsylvania. This is when I was your age, and shout out Ian, by the way, and there was two guys, and one guy's like, he was sitting beside me. He's like, I'm so excited to be on this bus. I'm like, okay, great. Okay, just leave me. I'm doing my thing. He's like, yeah, like I'm really happy to be here. And like, a guy wants to talk. I'm like, so why are you so happy to be here? He's like, just got out of jail. And he couldn't wait to tell me about it.
Yeah.
And as he's telling me the story about jail and everything, this guy in the back's like, you just got out of jail too?
That's
These two guys just having like jail talk.
oh my God.
I'm on there for like 4.5 hours. I'm like, this is great.
Yeah.
Yeah. American Greyhound
Greyhounds.
stories.
There's an insanity to it, right?
It's wild.
And there's an insanity to saying yes to something like that. If I can play these shows without a car,
Sure.
Where even though that song was only 4 years ago, there's still, that feels like a while ago in that life changes, like you said, right, to your question, that I find sitting down now to write, with the Fall record, I felt still for the first time in my life. I'd lived, I knew where home was. I'd lived a little bit of a life, right? But I was I'm still at McMaster. I was studying, and I was sitting at home and was like, well, what are your stories I can tell, as opposed to trying to narrate the chaos of my life, whatever that chaos is at this point.
You're saying stories that might be around you, or
yeah. And from that, there were some autobiographical tunes on that record, but a lot of it is, Pink Plastic Frame is about a bar I used to hang out in that burned down in an insurance fire, right? Chelsea, about Brendan Behan, where it felt more like a writing exercise in some ways, right? Where that's a fun place to be at now. I'm 21, and
you're the oldest 21-year-old I know, by the way.
I'll take it, man.
It's a compliment. It's a compliment.
Yeah.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, it's because my hairline's covered. It's where I can recognize the positionality of that, and that everything is still new.
Yeah.
That my heroes are still my heroes, right? And that it feels like every rung we climb on the ladder is a whole new view, and it's a wonderful place to be writing from. It's an exciting place to be writing from. But I never want to be trying to go like, well, can I write that song like when I was 16 and high and lonely? Can I write that song when I was 18 and clean but still crazy? Can I write that song where I was discovering what narrative songwriting is for the first time, right? I want to go back to those places. I want to keep looking forward and keep writing from where I am, but face forward,
First off, we're talking about heroes. So, you mentioned heroes, and I think we talk about like passing on tradition, passing on knowledge. You did a run of shows with Junkhouse recently. Curious to know from your perspective, what's like one thing you've learned kind of just being around the Junkhouse crew, whether it's like performance or songwriting or just like general energy?
Mm. I'll start with Tom, because I've known Tom since I was a teenager. I met him was 18 or 19, and
You're doing drywall for him?
yeah, no, Monson, yeah, but no, I crashed a party at his house.
Oh yeah.
I showed up, and he'd seen a video of us playing a Willie P. Bennett song, and he doesn't go, "Oh, that's this guy in my house." He goes, "Come on, Train," the Willie P. Bennett song. He goes upstairs and he brings down a guitar, hands it to me. I'm playing beautiful old J45. He goes, "Yeah, that was Willie's." Like, I don't know, I never met you before. He goes and gets Willie's guitar and gets me to play him some songs. And from that, I opened for them solo, and then the band started coming around, and I did a few, like I'd come up and sing a song with them on a festival or whatever. And then there was this run of shows where the band played Hamilton. I went out on the road with them, and then the band played 2 nights in Toronto. And that relationship is something I value and I treasure. He always says, like, "Oh, you know, we're just your crazy uncles," right? And there's a truth to that. And those guys are such incredibly musicians, right? Jesse O'Brien, like, is out of this world. Played with Buddy Guy. Tells me stories about playing with Levon Helm as a teenager. You know, Champagne James with the Moon River Project is phenomenal, and his trio down at the Capitol. I'm sure you've seen that.
Yeah. He's been on the show. James has been on the show.
Oh yeah,
He's
fantastic.
A lovely human being.
That
I mean,
guy,
they're all
yeah.
lovely human beings, but like,
Yeah, James. We were driving out to Kingston or
He's
Ottawa.
funny.
He's really funny, but I study philosophy at Mac, and the way James talks about music, especially when you're on a bus on the way to Ottawa or Kingston, right? I felt like I was in the most exciting philosophy lecture I've ever been in. You know, so these guys, I mean, Goldie, I think we're gonna work together in the spring, and Ray is a legend in himself, and Thompson as the only person alive who could ever step into Russ Wilson's shoes. I met Russ before he passed, and he was so kind, just so kind. Yeah, and then meeting Lanois again was incredible. He played both those shows this weekend. So yeah, performance and technique, absolutely. Those guys are the gold standard, right? 100%.
You don't appreciate it. I imagine you don't appreciate it until you're actually like on stage with these folks.
Yeah.
Because when you're watching, you're like, yeah, great performance. But when you're like playing with them, like I feel like it's like, oh, that's interesting. I like how you did that, or how you handled yourself in this situation, or how you managed a crowd, like any of that kind of stuff, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So there are like the technical things I've learned from those guys, right? How to deal with a heckler, you know, how to tell a story and tune your guitar at the same time, that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But what I think I appreciate the most is Tom, since I was a teenager, he taught me how to carry myself as an artist, as opposed to just being a musician.
What do you mean by that?
That you can, yeah. He kept saying when we were doing these shows the other week in Ontario, "Are you having fun? Are you having fun? Are you having fun?" He's just looking out for me, making sure I'm doing all right. I asked him why. He said, "You know, like, we work so hard on these songs. As the guys who are writing them, right? We work so hard on these songs. When you get on the road, or you get on the stage, you're just there to have fun." Now, I spent a long time just having fun. You know, I spent a long time just having fun. And not to say that I don't take the work seriously, I do, but that, you know, there's a time for art, and there's a time for rock and roll, and you can blend the two worlds, right? There's also the like hey, make sure you always have a box of shirts in your car. But if one of the other guys has all of them, because someone's gonna forget them, right? There's the practical, like, you
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
it's worth it to hire a grant writer. You know, it's worth it to like those bits of wisdom that make the balance easier.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, because it can get in the way.
Right. When you get bogged down by the grant writing, by the this, by the that, you're like, why am I doing this?
Why am I doing
Why
this?
am you know what's easier? Setting drywall up a flight of stairs. That's easier. And it's funny as an artist, right? Because it's like you think like, oh, it's easy to be an artist. It's easy to be an artist. You go and you have fun, right? But then, you know, like what is easy, right? Because it's easy to just go show up at a work site, work for 8 hours, come home, go to bed.
You'll make more money.
You make more money.
You'll sleep better.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Between that and hauling amps, your back hurts just about as much. And like I said, man, I'm 21 and my back fucking hurts. So
can I ask a question about the blown amp as we kind of get close to the end here?
Yeah.
So you teased that one earlier.
Sure, yeah.
We've got a blown amp situation. What happened?
It was one of the most beautiful acts of humility I've ever seen. And I almost feel like I should just tell Elijah to get on a GO train and tell you himself. But but I'll try and do it justice in that we were playing and we're about halfway through a song, and the way the shoe's set up, there's the stairs and Jesse's keys that Charlie's playing in front of the stairs. And I looked to Charlie to throw him a solo and shit myself because I realized Daniel Lanois is standing behind Charlie. And I mean, the first time I wept to a song was Goodbye on Wrecking Ball, the Emmylou Harris tune that Steve Earle wrote, right? Time Out of Mind is a perfect album, right? And all the U2 stuff and Peter Gabriel stuff is just like...
Oh, it's legendary. It's so good.
We can't even begin to get into it, right?
Yeah.
But I see him, and I met him once before, and he was so kind and so generous with his time. But meeting a hero and being kind and generous with his time is very different than he's hearing my art right now.
Yeah.
You know?
Uh-huh.
So we finish our set and we're walking off stage. This is night 1 of 2. And Lanois taps Elijah on the shoulder and he goes, "Oh, that's your blackface fiber reverb on stage." Elijah goes, "Yeah." He goes, "Okay, I need an amp tonight. Can I play it?" Elijah's not going to say no.
I was going to say no.
Yeah, right?
Actually, you should have brought your own.
Yeah. Like, yeah.
That's so funny. Okay. So he's using his amp. Yeah.
So he sees his amp, right? And he has his beautiful gold top Les Paul with, you know, 58 or 59, like that guitar, right? And he goes on about halfway through the show, the speaker blows. And you know, we can all tell. And they pull another amp up and they get on with it and it's fine. But Elijah is like, of two minds in that one. He has a story he can tell to the day he dies that Daniel Lanois destroyed his amp.
100%.
But also, we have a show the next night. None of us have any money.
Uh-huh.
And Elijah doesn't have an amplifier, right? But Lanois calls Elijah and I into the dressing room where he's standing there and he calls Elijah over and he gives him a couple $100 and apologizes and goes, "Hey, I tell you what," and gives him his phone number, gives him his amp tech's phone number. Just come by the studio tomorrow. So Elijah calls me 12 o'clock. Well, Tom calls me at 9 the next morning and goes, "The maker needs your guitar player." It's like, Jesus, okay. Send him Elijah's number. Lanois gets it, calls Elijah, calls him over. And they shoot the shit for a couple hours. Gives him this gorgeous Magnetone, hand-wired amp, like gorgeous amp to play for that show tonight. Takes care of him. And all's well and good. Elijah has the amp's getting repaired. Elijah has a better story now.
Yeah.
So we show up and we don't know if he's coming the next night, right? We show up and sure enough he's there and he watches a chunk of our set side stage, and again I'm just like, it's surreal. I grew up on those records, right? And we finish. I realize, you know, I'm never gonna have another chance to play with Lanois again. I see Tom. I say, hey, there's a Velvet Underground tune we've done together before. I said, hey, if you play that song tonight, I'm gonna show up. Like, I just need you to know I'm gonna wind up on that stage, and I appreciate you and everything you've done for me. And if this is the end of our working relationship, I'm comfortable with that fact because I'm gonna show up on that stage. He kind of laughs and it's like, yeah, do it, you know. So I thought, yeah, that'll be great. That'll be fun. Right. So sure enough, set goes by and they end up closing with Can't Stand It. Okay, well, I made a promise to myself, you know, to book it on the stage, sing the second verse. Again, you know, just dying inside, right? What is like, yeah, I was hauling drywall last summer. Right? And I probably will next summer. But for tonight,
for this moment,
for
this part of my life and my journey right here I am.
Here I am. Yeah. And Lanois turns around and plays his solo, like making the most intense eye contact with me I have ever felt in my life. It was, you know, a few years ago when I met him, or last year when I met him, he everything he said was, oh, like, little brother, I appreciate that. Little brother's good to see you, you know, little brother this, little brother that. And we finish the song and I give him a hug. He kisses me on the cheek and he goes, little brother, it's good to see you again. I could have just melted. And so I call a friend of mine and it was the next day, Sunday or something. I call a friend of mine, lives up in Owen Sound. I'm telling her about it, about the whole weekend, right? You know, saw some old friends and caught up and played with those guys, and I love playing with those guys, and showed up and I tell her that story. And she says, what a gift it is to watch you living our answered prayers. Yeah. And that just broke me, man. I had to pull over. But if that moment was anything, that for this one moment, here I am kind of thing, it was that. It was that for the records we've made and the hard times and the good times, you know, and the buses through Michigan with the lady doing whippets and the lady breaking up with her boyfriend and the creating for the sake of creating and the learning everything that we have to learn and continuing to learn everything we have to learn. In that moment, it was living an answered prayer. You know, it was such a gift.
Fin, like, words can't describe. You're wise beyond your years.
It's kind of you, man.
You are an amazing storyteller. You know, all we need right now is a fireside, and for you to just like tell stories. I can tell you have this like honest. We didn't even get into any of my questions, but you have this honesty about like your approach, and like you have the singer songwriter energy, and you know. If anyone goes see you guys live or hearing music, you know, one of the first things that come to mind is like a Bruce Springsteen kind of thing.
Sure.
And I don't say that in a sense of like, oh, this guy listened to Bruce Springsteen growing up and being like, I love Bruce Springsteen, I want to do Bruce Springsteen. It really feels like you're just doing the same kind of thing he does. And I mean that in a really good way. So I guess my question for you to kind of wrap this up is like, obviously you have similarities to like the singer-songwriter world, right? But what is it that you feel that you kind of like bring to it that's like unique and truly you that we can look forward to kind of like in your later releases?
That's a wonderful question. I feel like I should go home and like send you an email later. What is it? To your point about the Springsteen thing, 'cause it's one we get often. I'm always flattered by it. And I only started listening to him when I started hearing that. And it was...
That's funny.
And then was like so blown away that
I
people
believe that.
Yeah, man. Well, I was really so flattered once I started listening to his work, that people saw any sort of that in what we do. And I think that comes down to discipleship of Woody Guthrie.
Oh
Yeah,
yeah,
in
yeah,
that
yeah, yeah, yeah.
uh, Springsteen, Dylan, the band, all those guys were real disciples. I mean, Billy Bragg, Wilco, right? They cut that record together. Are disciples of Woody Guthrie, and I think what Woody Guthrie did is Woody Guthrie looked at the world that he saw and was as honest about it as he could be, right? And he wasn't a fly on the wall in that it was just expositional journalism, right? He recognized his positionality in the world around him and his part in the world around him, but he was as honest as he could be in the world around him. And I think that looks different for everyone, but I think the people that I'm inspired by, I think, I don't know if she is Woody guy, but I think Joni Mitchell is also one of the most fantastic examples of that, of this is me and this is my world and here it is. I think Adrienne Lenker is doing that in a really exciting way right now. I think there's so much of that in Hamilton. I think Ian James Bain is doing that so well right now. And that's the only method that I know, whether it's pure fiction and a narrative song or whether it's completely autobiographical. That's the only way I know how to write songs, and that's what I'm going to keep trying to do. And I think if there's one constant in our songs, our sounds will change, and inevitably, faces in the band may change, right? Nothing lasts forever, but in terms of the songs, that's the method I know, and that's the thing that will continue. That's the through line, is trying to write the world as I see it, and as I see it.
I love that. I love that. Okay, no more questions, Your Honor. Fin, this is an absolute pleasure. The Commune, a great young band coming out of Hamilton. I'm so excited to catch you guys early in your journey and get to watch you guys grow. I think it's fantastic. I hope that you continue to take everything you're learning from Tom and that crew and pay it forward. I think that the world needs more of it. And I just want to say again, from the bottom of my heart, thanks so much for joining me today.
Thank you. Appreciate your kindness, your time. Yeah, it's been a lot of fun.